Hello, I'm Matt Frank, and I'm part of the Team Gamma. For our project, we went and researched Jackson, Mississippi, and discussed the water crisis and factors that led up to this significant, impactful event. So the 5 areas that our team covered included federal and state policies, engaging with nonprofits, social capital, and then I'll focus on systemic racism, poverty, and then the impacts on economic development. So Jackson's population peaked in 1980 with over 200,000 residents. Like many U.S. communities, Jackson's experienced population decline over the past few decades. The white flight has definitely contributed to a loss of nearly 50,000 residents. Meanwhile, the state of Mississippi has seen modest growth of nearly 500,000 residents since 1980. You can see in the chart a significant decline in the percent of white population, especially after 1980, and the increase in black population. Jackson has over 123,000 black residents today compared to 95,000 residents in 1980. Looking at the state of Mississippi, Mississippi's black residents accounted for nearly 900,000 in 1980 and now totals over 1.1 million. There are many critical civil rights movements in Jackson as black residents fought for the right to vote, fair housing, quality education, and employment opportunities. Students at Tougaloo College worked with Millsaps College to desegregate the public library and other facilities. Freedom Riders traveled on buses from Washington, D.C. and were arrested in Jackson as they sought to highlight segregation on public transportation. Civil rights activist and NAACP leader Medgar Evers was assassinated by a white supremacist from the Citizens Council in 1963. This led to marches and the creation of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 would come a year later. These events were not unique to Jackson, as black residents in Shaw, Mississippi also experienced discrimination. A class action civil rights lawsuit was filed in 1969 by Andrew Hawkins, who accused town officials of violating their 14th Amendment right in the provision of municipal services. The black residents didn't receive the same quality and quantity of municipal services as their white residents. This case was dismissed but was appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals in 1971, where a biracial committee was ordered to resolve the discriminatory practices by the town of Shaw. Unfortunately, governments continue to fail black residents, as living conditions still vary greatly between black residents and white residents in various neighborhoods throughout the U.S. today. White residents started leaving Jackson and moving to other suburban areas quickly in the early 1970s, after putting up a decades-long and often violent fight to keep black residents out of certain areas of the city and stop in-school integration. The white flight was a result of the integration of public schools. As we learned about YAPA and the nexus of production with the relations of poverty, there are 6 critical components: academic, technical, social, cultural, political, and ecological. The exodus of the wealthy families left Jackson with a smaller tax base to sustain its programs and infrastructure. The city lost nearly 20,000 residents from 20 to 2010, even as it added 8,000 black residents. Jackson developed a 2019 strategic plan that called for affordable homes and safe neighborhoods with a focus on blight elimination, integrated infrastructure planning, and integrated financing planning. These are critical to ensuring that there's a variety of housing stock reserved and maintained for all income levels. In our readings, Bradshaw discussed the various theories of poverty: the poverty caused by economic, political, and social distortions or discrimination, and the more complex one, poverty caused by cumulative and cyclical interdependencies, I think are at play with Jackson, Mississippi. Besides the loss in home values, the white flight created additional poverty and debt. Poverty rates increased significantly and now stands at an alarming 24.5% for the Jackson MSA. As you can see, the black poverty rate is significantly higher at 30%, and the white poverty rate is at 9.5%. Cities like Flowood and Madison have exponentially grown for the past 30 years due to the white flight. With the exodus of white families from Jackson, it has also hampered new investment in economic development. Jackson's largest amount of development has occurred in the white neighborhoods of Fondon and the Eastover District, leaving pockets of Jackson with little investment over the past few decades. The 2019 strategic plan discusses growing the Jackson's tax base with occupational opportunities. Moving forward, more focus is needed on economic development growth and capacity building for all businesses while decreasing levels of poverty through employment and living wages. This is evident in Schaefer's discussion on the star of community economic development, with space as a center point, decision-making, markets, society, culture, rules, institution, and resources, kind of the guiding points to help move communities forward. The community is working to reestablish many of its neighborhoods, including Fair Street. This area was thriving with many black businesses in the 1940s and 50s, but segregation took a toll on Fair Street. Institutions like the Alamo Theater and Trumpet Records have been long gone. There's a great opportunity for additional investment to recreate Fair Street to its previous glory. Plans and resources have not enabled this critical area to execute on the necessary rehab and development to showcase this historical district to date. It's important that Jackson focus on a Shop Local campaign to help areas like Fair Street. As discussed by Phillips, the campaign should include community-led initiatives through thinking and acting local via social capital and community development. This is different than the typical zoning and developer-driven environment that exists in much of America. The small change approach challenges the community to be innovative to spur social and economic development. This could be accomplished by partnering with organizations like the Jackson Downtown Development Authority, Downtown Jackson Partners, Cooperation Jackson, and others to create opportunities to network and accelerate businesses through programs. It's critical to understand the local issues and help foster an environment where local businesses can grow, as they are often your best ambassadors in economic development. It's also important that Jackson address the human development that Nussbaum discussed, as utility-based approaches do not adequately assess people's capabilities and opportunities as part of quality of life. The human development approach by Nussbaum identifies 10 capabilities that society should provide for social justice to help address the inequalities of the world. This is important as we witness more separation between the classes as the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Jackson will need to think broader in future strategic planning efforts to try and address the capabilities and health of all people in the community. Jackson has started with the Building a Pathway to Human Dignity initiative identified in the 2019 strategic plan. The 5 goals of healthy citizens, affordable homes and safe neighborhoods, a thriving educational system, occupational opportunities and growing tax base, and a city that is open and welcoming to visitors is more important now with the pandemic and water crisis. Housing and employment are critical foundations for Jackson residents and their success. Government has failed to provide a fair opportunity for Black residents. Government, banks, insurance companies, and other businesses have perpetuated racial segregation and discrimination. Decades of discriminatory policies have kept Blacks from the ability to move up in careers and attain wealth through the housing market. Making amends and trying to address these employment and housing discrimination is challenging when people don't acknowledge the issue. There's an opportunity for Jackson to amend its past wrongdoing and social injustices. There's momentum with the recent additions of the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum and the Museum of Mississippi History. There are hundreds of millions in new projects that have been developed in downtown Jackson. Additional focus on the downtown development zone is needed, as well as the entire city of Jackson, to ensure economic development occurs in every neighborhood with the necessary human development and resources to ensure they are building a pathway to human dignity. Please find our references for this portion of the team presentation, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.